So this is a follow-up to the conversation on sublimation. To recap, sublimation is when you have a drive, an urge, an emotion that is turned into something. I gave examples of like an instinct for like gore becoming a butcher, control becoming a policeman, these type of things. But today we're going to talk about something called reaction formation. So in this case, you have an urge or a drive, and instead of it becoming part of your life through an unconscious process, like the person who's interested in gore becoming a butcher, you literally go and do the exact opposite. So in this case, the person who has an instinct towards gore may become a housekeeper, or they might be a person who washes windows. So what happens is they have a drive and they literally do the opposite because it's unacceptable for some reason. So that's a pretty, let's say, uncommon one. But you might hear a different example that's probably more common. So, what if a person has an urge towards promiscuity, being over very sexual? So they might become a nun. And then what we end up hearing about is how people have urges and then they come out in very unsafe ways that are traumatic and damaging to other people. You would also hear like almost kids, there's a pop culture way of talking about this, being like blah blah blah, oh he's gay. And so what used to happen is the person who would be saying that might be the person who actually had those deep unwanted homoerotic urges, right? So that would be reaction formation. A different version of this may be a person who had an interest towards the creative arts. Now, we know that very many parents will want their children to get careers in fields that are effective at making money to give them a certain secure future. We also know that parents will want their kids to, like, dad does this, so maybe I want my kids to do that or take on the family business. So you would hear things like, yeah, I want my kid to become a lawyer because they make good money. I want them to be a doctor. I want them to become a computer programmer because we know there's jobs. But I don't want them to study philosophy and I don't want them to be an artist, right? So you might have an urge to be creative. You might have an urge to sit and think deeply. You might be a very emotional person who has an instinct to just really connect and to feel things and just enjoy looking at flowers and noticing the breeze. But you might have had a family system where they're like, actually, those people aren't okay. They're not accepted for some reason. And instead, you should go into a path or career where you'll make money, or you learn a certain skill, or you can show off how intelligent you are. And so what may have happened is if you were this kid, you had an instinct to read, write, be creative, and instead, by hearing that it's an unacceptable thing in whatever form, you then do the literal opposite. So, the idea of thinking about reaction formation, again, is just a way to stop and really be curious about yourself. It's not a right, wrong thing. I mean, unless you're being a nun and like molesting little boys or something like that. We'll go ahead and say that's wrong. But otherwise, it's just about looking at yourself and noticing your interests and urges, and then having the courage to really just explore who you are.